Hi, my name is Anna. Before I was born, there were two things my parents loved more than anything in the world: their restaurant and their yacht, both named Bella. And that didn't change after I was born either. But soon after, their restaurant wasn't doing so well. When Dad knew Mom was pregnant with me, he said, "It's so expensive to raise a baby. We'll have to sell something. This child is already bad luck." Ultimately, they sold their precious boat, and they never stopped crying about it. Oh, if only we didn't have Anna and had Bella with us right now, we'd be having breakfast at sea. And I'd be sunbathing on the deck. Having a child just ruins everything. They never celebrated my birthday, but when I was turning 5, they decided to have a party and called all their friends. When I ran to the table excitedly to look for the cake, I felt confused. "Why does this say, 'Happy birthday, Mom'?" "Because I gave birth to you on this day. What did you have to do? Nothing." It was a really boring party because there were no presents for me and nobody was paying me any attention. Instead, they all wanted to talk about their fancy new yachts. My parents were so embarrassed because they didn't have anything to talk about. Later that evening, Dad said to me, "I wish we'd put you up for sale instead of my boat." That same year, my little sister was born. And on the same day, Dad unexpectedly found an oyster washed up on the beach with a rare gray pearl inside. He sold it for $50,000, and the money really helped them make things better at the restaurant. "What a blessing this baby girl has been for us. She's brought us such good fortune." And because of that, my parents decided to name her Bella, like everything else they truly loved. "We love you so much, Bella. We tried with Anna, but it's easier to love you because you're just so perfect." They made me do all the chores around the house while they drooled over the new baby. I even had to change her stinky diapers because both my parents refused to. After a few weeks, they got really busy at the restaurant, and I was left in charge of Bella most of the time. I'd feed her, bathe her, rock her to sleep. I started teaching her my name. "Anna," I'd point to myself. Bella would just look at me, and then she'd laugh and clap her little baby hands. But things changed forever when Bella turned 1. My parents came home from work one night, and Mom started yelling at me for not having dinner ready. "You own a restaurant. Can't you just eat there?" "We sell that food, you moron. What should I expect from someone as stupid as you?" "I guess we'll just go eat out somewhere. Come on, Bella." But Bella didn't want to move. She slapped my mom's hand away and started to cry. With her little toddler fingers, she pointed at me. "Anna!" My parents looked shocked. Bella had just said her first word, and it was my name. "Anna! Anna! Anna!" "What have you been teaching her?" Mom was so mad that Bella's first words weren't, "I love you, Mom and Dad, and I hate Anna." Dad picked her up, but Bella kept kicking and screaming for me. "Fine, we'll bring your stupid sister." I walked out with them and Bella stopped crying. She smiled at me and I smiled back. After that, Bella always had my back and I always had hers. When I was in the 3rd grade, my parents took Bella to a boat show. They left me behind to clean the house, of course. When they got home, Bella ran to me and gave me a present. I was so touched. "I love you, Anna." It was a little red toy boat. I hugged her tight. When Bella turned 4, she had a phase where she wouldn't eat anything except hot dogs and ketchup. Her favorite part was when I squirted ketchup all over the hot dogs. "Ready, Bella? Ketchup party!" The funny fart noise the bottle made always made her laugh like crazy. When summer break was over and I went back to school, my parents had to hire a babysitter for Bella. One day when I got back, I could hear screams from one of the rooms. Just then, Bella came running out, holding a ketchup bottle and squirting it everywhere. "Ketchup party!" Behind her, the babysitter came out drenched in ketchup from head to toe. "That's it! I quit!" Just as she was storming off, my parents walked in looking horrified at the mess. "What on earth is Bella doing? Did you teach her this?" "No, I did not teach her to spray ketchup all over the house." Mom caught Bella and snatched the bottle from her, glaring at me. "I don't know how, but this is all your fault. Clean this up right now and stop poisoning our little Bella's mind." Just as she was dragging Bella to the bathroom, she slipped on some ketchup and fell on the floor. Angry as I was that I had to clean up everything, that made me feel a little bit better. When I was old enough, my parents made me work at their restaurant. I thought it would actually be fun waiting on tables and meeting new people. But what was I thinking? They just handed me an apron and rubber gloves. You'll be washing the dishes. When I asked them to pay me, Dad glared at me. We already pay you by giving you a bed at night and a roof over your head. Don't be so greedy. To make matters worse, they'd make me pay for any food I ate there. But I became friends with the head chef, and I'd eat the food he gave me secretly in the back alley. One time, he came out to hand me a bowl of mac and cheese, and just then, we heard someone coming and he dove behind the garbage can. It was Dad.
Where did you get that, Anna?
I took it out from the garbage. Do you want some? He looked absolutely disgusted and was about to walk off when he spotted the chef.
I knew it was you. Thief, you're fired.
Of course, a few years later, when Bella started working at the restaurant, Mom and Dad got her the cutest uniform and let her greet the guests as they walked in. The restaurant is named after her. She should be the face of it. No, you named her after the restaurant and your stupid boat.
Oh, my boat. Every time I look at you, I miss that boat. Now get back to work.
Of course, Bella could order anything off the menu, but she still always had my back and she'd sneak me half her meal. One night when I was eating lasagna at the back of the kitchen, Dad suddenly walked in and he accused me of stealing. As he snatched my plate away, Bella came running in. I gave it to her, Dad. She works hard and she deserves it.
No, she doesn't, Bella. You work hard for your meals, not your ungrateful sister.
That was the final straw. I was done being insulted by them. The next night was one of the busiest ever, and the kitchen was chaotic. I had Dad screaming at me every 5 minutes.
Anna, hurry up. We need clean dishes.
I stopped cleaning them and just gave the dirty ones back to the chefs. They were so busy they didn't notice, and the fresh food went out on filthy dishes. One even had a used napkin on it. The customers were so grossed out, a lot of them left without paying. A food critic was at the restaurant that night, and he threw down his napkin as he screamed,
"This is an insult. This would never happen in France."
And he stormed off with my parents following him and saying sorry again and again. Of course, he wrote a horrible review. Bella and I found it really funny, though. We would burst into laughter every time we read it. Bella is the most disgusting restaurant on earth. Eat your meal from Bella or straight out of the trash can. Same difference. The reviews were so bad that customers stopped coming altogether. Eventually, my parents were forced to sell the restaurant.
I hope you're happy. Now we can't send your sister to college.
What are we going to do for money now, Anna? Did you think about that?
Think of all the people who lost their jobs. You should feel awful.
But no one lost their jobs, Dad. Everyone got rehired by the new owner. In fact, I'm also still working there, and I got a raise. I skipped off before Dad exploded. I knew I wanted to go to college, and living by the sea had always made me want to study marine biology. I got a loan, worked part-time, and put myself through college. I graduated at the top of my class and got a research job. I would spend days at a time out on the water, and I loved it. With the money I'd saved up from work, I eventually bought a cute sailboat. I could see my parents turning green with envy. I offered to take them around for a spin, but they refused to go with me. When Bella hopped onto the boat excitedly, she asked, "Have you named it yet?" "No, but what do you think about the Annabella?" Her face lit up. "I really like that." And just like that, the Annabella set sail for the first time. A few days later, Bella came to me with a poster. "We should enter this contest." It was a sailboat race coming up in a few weeks, and there was a grand prize of $100,000. You think we can win? I know we can. As we were practicing one day, I was shocked to see my parents had a sailboat too. Dad yelled out to us, "Guess what? We entered the contest too. Borrowed the boat from a friend." "But why?" "Oh, he thought it would be fun to beat you. We spent years on the water before you were born, Anna. You'll never win against us." It was the morning of the race, and Bella and I were getting everything ready when we noticed that something very important was missing. Our sails. How were we going to race without them? The race started, and everyone got off to a huge head start. I could see my parents pointing and laughing at us from the water.
"Good luck without your sails, Annabella."
Of course they'd sabotaged us. Just then, Bella came panting behind me, dragging some disgusting sails. I found them in the garbage. They smell so gross. We set them up, caught a big gust of wind, and took off. We were pretty far behind the other racers, but Annabella was a speedy little thing, and we'd been practicing a lot. We quickly caught up to the rest of the pack, but our parents had a big lead. The finish line was fast approaching. We'll never catch them. We're too heavy. I turned to see Bella strapping on a life jacket. What are you doing? Win this race, Anna, for me. And with that, she jumped over the side. I knew she could swim like a mermaid, so I wasn't too worried about her. I immediately picked up speed after she jumped off. I turned around to glance at her once, and she yelled at me, "Catch-up party!" What was she talking about? I was right behind my parents' boat, and the finish line was only 200 yards away. That's when I saw a big squirt bottle of ketchup on the floor of the boat.
You'll never catch us, Anna. You'll always be a loser.
It's time for a ketchup party. And with that, I got close enough and aimed it straight at Dad's face. He couldn't see anything, and his boat ended up getting stuck between two rocks. I could hear Mom and Dad yelling, but I went even faster and crossed the finish line. Bella ran up to me and gave me a huge hug. We won! We won! We're rich! A few weeks later, the Annabella and its victory was trending on the internet. We were invited to race all over the world. Eventually, we bought a bigger boat with our winnings. And even though my parents had always been so mean to me, I bought them a boat too, to make up for the one they'd sold all those years ago. And I keep the red toy boat Bella got me as a present right by the wheel at all times. At all times.
Hi, my name is Tina, or at least that's what my adopted parents named me. And that's pretty much the only nice thing they've ever given me. When I was a baby, my parents adopted me from an orphanage in New York City. I don't remember anything from back then, but they told me the place was horrible. It was filthy! You better be grateful we rescued you from there. I never really believed her. How could it be any filthier than their own house? It was practically a pigsty. The carpet always had a horrible damp smell, and the floorboards and walls were all stained. They already had one child, my younger brother Steven, but he was super dumb. They knew I was smart, so they probably thought I was a good investment. You can do our son's homework since he's busy all the time, the little darling. Look, Mom, Dad, I can snort marbles out of my nose. Well done, Steven. We're so proud of you. Tina, those math exercises aren't going to work themselves out. I rolled my eyes as I walked away. Did I have to get adopted by the dumbest family in New York? I ended up doing all of his homework all the time. But of course, he was never grateful. Instead, he chased me around with scissors and threatened to cut my hair. Come on, Tina. I just want to give you a haircut. I was smarter than all three of them put together, but they hated the thought. It would kill them to admit it. When I was 10, my dad owned a sports memorabilia store. And he was too cheap to hire a real accountant, so he made me work there as one. It's the least you can do after all we've done for you. Fine, but let me tell you, your dumb store is not making any money. You're probably doing it wrong. Aren't you supposed to be smart and good at this stuff? Go over the books again. Well, I wasn't surprised when he lost his shop 3 months later. Meanwhile, at home, my mom would make me stay upstairs whenever she had company over, which was all the time. She liked to make her friends think she was really smart, even though she was an idiot. Go to your room and don't you dare come down. God only knows what complicated and weird thing you'll end up talking about. They'll think I'm a freak like you. Don't embarrass me. I decided to have some fun one day while her friends were over. I set up a trivia board game I knew my mom would lose, and I told her friends I'd play on their team. We won by 25 points. It was epic. We didn't know Tina was so smart. My mom was so embarrassed. She flipped the table over and told everyone to leave. How dare you make me look stupid in front of my friends? Maybe if you ever read a book, you'd know a thing or two. Maybe if you weren't so ugly, you'd have friends other than books. I make myself laugh. Good, because no one else thinks you're funny. And I skipped out of the room before her flying shoe could catch me. One day, while Mom and Dad were at work, Steven decided to spray paint the living room wall. What are you doing? Mom and Dad are gonna kill you. No, Tina. They're gonna kill you. He hid the can of spray paint in my room where I couldn't find it. When my parents got home, they freaked out. Tina, what did you do? Clean this up right now. It wasn't me. It was Steven. But they wouldn't listen to a word I said. Just then, Steven walked into the room holding empty cans of spray paint. Look what I found in Tina's room. That was it. I was doomed. One more stunt like this and we're taking you right back to that orphanage. At least it looks better than it did before. This house is disgusting anyway. I spent the next 5 hours scrubbing paint off the wall. Even after that, I couldn't get it all off. I missed dinner, and my parents made me go to bed hungry. It wasn't much of a loss, really. My family just had gross canned junk for dinner anyway. They didn't have enough money to buy good food, apparently, but they could somehow afford a gigantic flat-screen TV for their filthy living room. My dad loved that TV and sat in front of it all day after work, watching baseball. Steven loved baseball too. So Dad signed him up for the Little League team. But equipment wasn't cheap. So Dad gave all of my measly allowance to Steven to buy a baseball bat. That's not fair. That's my money. No, it's my money that I gave to you, and I can take it back. My mother agreed with him. Maybe Steven will grow up to be a famous baseball player. At least he'll be doing something good for this family, unlike you, Tina. Steven's not even good at baseball. He strikes out whenever he gets up to bat. I'm better than he is, and I've only played once. It was true. Steven was horrible at sports, but my parents didn't care. Somehow, it was still my fault. Maybe if you were there to cheer him on, he hit the ball more often. I wish you had never adopted me. I wish I could go back. I stormed off to my room. I knew I had to get out of here, but I didn't have any money or anywhere to go. My friends at school all came from rich families in the city. I never told anyone I was adopted, because it would be so embarrassing. One day at lunch, the girls were just boasting away as usual. My parents are taking me to Paris this Saturday for breakfast. We just got back from Hong Kong last week. It was so exotic. I decided to chime in. My parents let me get extra pepperoni on my pizza last night. That was a lie. They actually said pepperoni was too expensive and I wasn't allowed to get it. Actually, we never ordered pizza either. The girls all looked at me like I had 3 heads. It's okay, Tina. We all know your family is dirt poor. Pepperoni is all they can afford. I was mortified. I ran out of the cafeteria in tears as the girls laughed at me. I stopped next to a bulletin board and noticed a help wanted sign. Angelo's Pizza was hiring delivery drivers. I was only 14 and I couldn't drive. But Angelo didn't need to know that. I lied in my application saying I was 17 years old and had a driver's license. He hired me and placed an Angelo's Pizza hat on my head. Guess it was time to teach myself how to drive. Driving wasn't easy. I knocked over so many trash cans and street cones at first. I didn't have anyone to teach me, and watching YouTube videos only helped so much. I couldn't tell my parents because they'd want the car for themselves. They only had one car, and Mom was only allowed to use it if she asked Dad's permission. Once I taught myself the basics, it was time to start delivering pizzas. It was actually pretty fun. I got to play my music and smell fresh pizza all day long. I told my parents I'd be studying at a friend's house after school. They didn't care where I was, as long as it was out of their faces. Do we have to feed you? Can't you just have lunch and dinner there? Sure, Mom. Her parents' dinner are even worse than yours, but I'll eat there. Nothing made me happier than missing meals at home and eating pizza instead. Angelo was always good about feeding his employees. I delivered pizza all over the city. Sometimes I'd even deliver to those mean girls from school. They'd laugh at me in my uniform. Little did they know, I had stolen a few bites of their pizzas, especially the ones with extra pepperoni. Sometimes I'd spit on them too. I saved up enough money and planned on buying myself a car. I was going to start my own delivery service. I hid the money under a loose floorboard in my room. I couldn't let my parents find it, or they'd probably spend it on another big TV. Then, disaster struck. I arrived at a house, got out of my car, and walked up to the door. I rang the bell and my dad answered the door. Tina, what are you doing here? He was at a friend's house watching the game, and they had ordered pizza. I should have recognized the address, but I was just so busy that I hadn't noticed. Since when do you have a job? You better not be hiding money from us. You know we need it. That night, my parents ripped my room to pieces. They knocked over every piece of furniture and tore open every drawer. I found it! Stephen pulled my box of money out from under the floorboard. Stop! Put that back! How dare you hide this from us, Tina? We adopted you from that horrible orphanage, and this is the thanks we get? That was the last straw. I stormed out of the room and grabbed Steven's baseball bat, the one they bought with my money. I walked right up to the big TV in the living room, wound up, and smashed it to pieces. How's that for thanks? I dropped the bat and stormed out of the house. I went to the one place I knew I was safe, Angelo's Pizza. Angelo was closing up shop when I showed up in tears. I told him what had happened and how my parents stole all my money, and he felt really bad. Here, I know you've been saving up for a car. It's yours. And he just handed me the keys to my pizza delivery car. I gave him a big hug. Thank you, thank you, thank you! He invited me to stay with his family for the night. They had a small home, but it was really nice. His wife was an amazing cook, and their son was in school to become a hairstylist. Tina, would you like a real haircut? He worked some serious magic on my hair. I looked like a movie star, and I felt like one too. Angelo's family felt so bad for me that they offered to let me live with them. They became my second adopted family, my real family. Balancing work and school wasn't easy, but I managed. I learned as much as I could about starting a business and finally got my driver's license 2 years later. My parents didn't come to my high school graduation. They didn't even try to contact me after I smashed the TV. Instead of going to college, I started Tina Taxi, a full-service food delivery and rideshare company like Uber Uber and DoorDash. Tina Taxi was different because I made each ride a party and worked a pure tip system. That meant my rides were free, and if people wanted to give me money, they could. My brother heard about my new job and called for a ride. He made me drive him all over the city pretending like he was lost. Sorry, I meant to go somewhere else. So sorry. Can you go in that direction now, please? He finally got out and didn't give me any money. Instead, he poked a hole in my tire and took a bus home. I lost a whole day of business because of him. While driving one day, I saw a bunch of signs all over town that were making fun of me. One in particular read, "Tina Taxi is a scam." I knew it was my idiot brother because he couldn't even spell taxi right. Take those signs down. You'll ruin everything. Buy me a new baseball bat and TV, and maybe I'll take them down. Why don't I give you a job and you can buy your own? Work for you? Why would anybody ever want to work for you? I tore the signs down myself and left them on my parents' lawn. I knew Tina Taxi was a good idea, and plenty of people already wanted to work for me. I got my own apartment and decided it was time to hire more drivers. By the next year, I had 20 drivers working for me, and Tina Taxi brought in over $1 million. Soon enough, I got a call from a multi-billion-dollar company that wanted to buy Tina Taxi. They offered me $2.5 billion for my company. I told them I'd only sell if they maintained my business model. Tina Taxi was always meant to help those in need. They agreed. After everything was said and done, I went back to the orphanage where my parents had adopted me all those years ago. The kids were so excited to see me. That's Tina from Tina Taxi! I want to be just like her when I grow up. You're already just like me. I used to live here when I was just a baby. They were thrilled to know I started out just like them. I donated millions of dollars to help remodel and build orphanages all over the world, but especially one in my home state of New York. I even adopted a little girl named Amira, and I promised to give her the childhood that I never had. Together, we live in a huge house outside of New York City. I never heard from my adopted parents ever again. I never heard of Steven either, so he probably never did become a famous baseball player.